Before we figure out where we're going, let's look at where we've been. It's 1985. Super Mario Bros. Is out. It's super cool. I wish I was there. It's still fun to just pick up and play through every now and then, and every single thing in it is still prevalent in modern Mario games. Like, everything. It cemented a vibe. Then Part 2 came out in Japan and it was basically the same thing but harder.
Super Mario Bros. 2はさすがディスクで面白い。
Still worth a play, if you're a masochist like myself. American audiences were given a different sequel. It's a bit of a complicated story, but basically it's a completely different non-Mario game that was reskinned and thrown at us. You probably know the story, but if you haven't, it's worth looking into. It's pretty interesting. But that game is super fun, and it was also designed by Shigeru Miyamoto, Mario's daddy. Now, it's 1990, Super Mario Bros. 3 is out. Everybody's going crazy about it. I still wish I was there. It was packed with so many new features that it's almost hard to believe that it came out on the same console as Part 1. Now there's an overworld, more stages, an inventory, a bigger soundtrack, more detailed graphics, bonus rooms, saving? They even put a game within this game, the non-Super Mario Bros. These kinds of additions and advancements would be expected for each subsequent Mario game as the series progressed. Standards were set. Now, I think all of the games are extremely well made and charming and really fun, but like duh, that's not a new take. There's a reason Mario is the face of Nintendo and arguably the face of video games in general. He's iconic. That said, I'm not gonna try to pick apart problems that need fixing, nor do I have a dream Mario game in mind. I just want to converse with you about where these games might be going, and now that Mario Maker's been around, how there might be a need for a very fresh take on the side-scrolling style of Mario game. Also, of course, I just want to nerd out a bit. Real quick, I'm mostly only talking about the mainline games according to the Super Mario Encyclopedia and Odyssey. New Super Mario Bros. Came out in 2006 for the Nintendo DS and was really exciting at the time. It had been 14 years since the last side-scrolling Mario game. It sold so well that 3 years later they brought that concept to the Wii, adding co-op for the first time. And the Koopas and Goombas dance. Then onto the 3DS, and then Wii U. All of these games are extremely enjoyable, albeit relatively samey. Like they all sort of blend together in my head. Why fix what isn't broken might have been the thinking behind that. Or perhaps a fear of failure caused by change was the motivation. That's understandable. Those games sold like crazy, and seeing as Mario is Nintendo's mascot, they might not be able to take as many risks with mainline games as some may want. I don't know, I ain't complaining. Those games are fun as heck. I just can't help but to think of what else can be done with this format, you know? Look at Super Mario Bros. 3 and Super Mario World. They came out about a year or two apart from each other, depending on where you live. And granted, one was on newer hardware, they still feel pretty different from each other. For instance, 3 has a variety of items and power-ups to hold on to, and World has the ultimate power-up, Yoshi. Better example of Nintendo changing things up might be found in Super Mario Land 1 and 2. They were both on the Game Boy, but they look and play completely different. Part 1 sort of feels like Super Mario Bros, but the Game Boy version, and Part 2 kind of feels like Super Mario World, but with the freedom of non-linear zone selection. They're both good, but in different ways. In fact, I'd love to see these games remade like how they did with Link's Awakening. Now the 3D games, there's some variety. There's not as many of them and one is a direct sequel, but besides that, they definitely all have their own vibe. From the Mushroom Kingdom to a tropical island to space. They're moving quick. Super Mario 64 was the transitioner from 2D side-scrolling to a free-roaming 3D playground. Super Mario Sunshine took that and added a fun toy and a fresh location. And Super Mario Galaxy explored physics in a new and incredible way. Then we got Super Mario 3D Land and 3D World. They sort of took the aesthetics from classic games and added an extra dimension. Super fun, but I can't help but to put these two games in their own category. Also, the co-op multiplayer was such a perfect new addition to the 3D style. I had a lot of fun fighting over that crown. Super Mario Maker gave people the tools to make levels nearly identical to the ones in past games, as well as more creative ones. Now we can play a virtually infinite variety of stages in 4 different game styles. It's genius. We give you the tools, now get to work. The only issue with this is that now the new Super Mario style of games might be exhausted at this point. Between the 4 full-length new Super Mario games and all of the new style of Mario Maker stages out there, they would need to add a ton of innovation to another 2D Mario game to make it feel new again. But even if they announced new Super Mario Bros. Switch, and it still looked and played just like the rest of them, you know I'm still gonna need to play it. Now, I love the shiitakes and the turtles and the Venus flytraps, but I really appreciate it when a Mario game dares to not have them in it, although there are very few. So I'm wondering if Nintendo would be afraid of doing that again, if it would be too off-brand, too sunshiny, or how about this? Mario Land 1 and 2 are the only games that don't feature Bowser. Now, Bowser's a man, but I wouldn't mind seeing a game without him again. It's kinda hard to imagine a new main antagonist. Story usually takes a back seat for Mario games, so it doesn't really matter who the final boss is, as long as it's a fun fight. Maybe a new reptilian baddie? Like there could be a reptile kingdom attacking the mushroom kingdom. That could bring all sorts of new enemies and bosses to the franchise. Or just tag Donkey Kong and his gang back in for a game. I think they're ready. And where do you think a good setting would be? I feel like Mario's been everywhere. Should we return to Sarasaland? Or to Isle Delfino? A bigger version of New Donk City? I've always liked when they play with size like in Giant Land or the Macro Zone. Maybe a whole game where Mario's tiny in a big world could be fun. There's just so many things that can be done with Mario. A huge open world like Breath of the Wild, a time traveling gimmick in which Mario visits reimagined levels from past games, universe jumping, Kingdom Hearts style, but with other Nintendo games. The potential is endless. Or should we just keep begging Nintendo for Super Mario Galaxy 3? I have to mention that there's plenty of great non-mainline Mario games out there. Remember the Mario vs. Donkey Kong games? Those are sweet. I really want to see what Nintendo does with some of their ongoing sub-series games. Of course they'll keep putting out the sports and party games, but I want to see what they do with the Mario and Luigi series. Or maybe a new Mario Paint game? There's some potential there, kinda. And give me another basketball game, please. Hoops 3-on-3 was sick, dude. It had Final Fantasy characters in it? Like what, dude? The Super Mario games have never disappointed me. Even my least favorite game is always worth a replay. It's been over a decade since the last original 2D game, and I'm just really hoping that they haven't retired that style of gameplay. I'm sure that whatever they decide to do next will be great. I can tell from the art of Super Mario Odyssey book just how much work, creativity, and passion goes into making one of these games. And I can't wait to see what's next. What would you like to see from the next Super Mario game? Any predictions? Do you prefer 2D games or 3D games? Which sub-series is your favorite, and what do you want to see them do with it? Was this video worth making? Please let me know. Thanks for watching. Later.
All this is beyond me. I had trouble with Lincoln Logs. Remember Lincoln Logs? I mean, that was it for me. Kids and fantasy.